Aperture.
This is a photograph of me. I'm the young boy, 10 years old, I don't know, standing at the base of the stair behind the post, out of sight, hidden, unseen. I'm scratching my head, wondering. The photograph was made by a visionary from Kentucky, Ralph Eugene Meatyard, and it was done in the early 1960s. Okay, it's not me. I would have been older than that in the early 1960s. But this photograph is a key to this evening of the unseen eye, a life in photographs and other digressions. Hello? My name is Bill. This is a very hip crowd. That's it. That's what you say. You say, hello. Hello, Bill. Let's do it again. Hello? So you have to imagine. No. You're a little eager. Okay, so he's real dyspeptic, and it's Nick Nolte, and he's had a really horrible life, and he stands there at the microphone and he says, hello, my name is Bill.
Hello, Bill.
Hello, my name is Bill, and I'm a collector. Thank you very much. So, hallelujah. God save me, I'm a collector. For a long time, and that's what we're going to do here. So, 40 years ago, I walked into the old Sotheby's Park Bennett, and I bought a photograph. This one, Imogen Cunningham, The Dream, 1910. It's a great photograph with her sphinx-like stillness and keeper of secrets inscrutability. It's very hard to say without S's. Anyway, I bought that photograph, and I was off to the races. This is the video, but this is the multimedia part.
Why do I collect photography? Why do I collect photography? The answer that I've given over the years is that the voices. I was there one day and I heard the voices, and the voices said, go out and buy photographs. So there isn't any systematic, easy, simple answer. I think that one of the things to talk about with photography is that anyone in the Western world knows all about photography. From you're little, you see millions of photographs, and you know the good ones from the bad ones. You might not be able to be articulate about it, but you have this experience of photography, so that really sets it apart from anything. And it was this intuitive thing that I just had this notion that I wanted maybe a photograph, and I had a very specific idea that I wanted a photograph that was secretive, that was romantic, and 40 years ago in New York City, you could pretty much see all the photographs that were for sale in about an hour. There were less than a half dozen places to go to, and so I went to the old Sotheby's Park Bennett one day, and I didn't know anything. I didn't know you could look at them beforehand. I didn't know. Anyway, I'm sitting there next to some guy who I think he thought I was being a little friendly, when in fact I just wanted to see the catalog. So finally he hands me the catalog, and I'm going through and I go, wow. Imogen Cunningham. So the picture comes up across the room, and you go like, because they didn't even have projections behind you, and I've heard of her. I'd seen her on TV even, and it was this like perfect photograph, and it's a veiled woman, it's sort of Madonna-like, all lovely, dream. It was called The Dream. Of course, now I found out that she never titled anything, and that was just a working title that Sotheby's had put on it, and it's called something else. But anyway, so I buy this picture for what was for me a lot of money, which was in fact not a lot of money. It was like $300 US, and you go like, what have you just done? This is like insane. And I didn't have any money, really. And so I figured, like, where are you going to? Collectors can. A real collector always finds the money. It's a really good test of your seriousness. If you really love it, you'll never spend too much money, because if it's too much money, you didn't love it. So I buy this photograph. I have no idea not only where I'm going to get the money, but who do you go to? Who do you pay it? You know, is there like a? This is long enough ago that they come. You paddles even. Just raise your little hand, and some guy comes over and gives you an index card. You write your name on it, and you go like. Anyway, so I buy this photograph. It's great. It's great. Take it home. What have you done? It's like.
So then I went and looked at some more, and before you know it, you've got a dozen pictures around the room, and you've taken leave of your senses. The thing that people don't know is that actually this was the first picture. I bought this when I was in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and there's a story that comes with this one, I hope. But I was an actor, and my first acting job was in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And I was still in the morose, maudlin period. I used to go on these endless walkabouts because I had no money at all. And it was a very difficult, very neurotic environment at this job, at this show. I used to walk by this frame shop, and the frame shop was going out of business, and so I would go in, and there was this picture. It was in this horrible, like, ladies' powder room gold frou-frou frame, and it was an image of a figurine with no face and this kind of Madonna-like thing. Anyway, I bought it for $40 and took it back to my little horrible studio apartment. And I'd get stoned, and she would come out of the picture and go, "Don't worry about it, it's gonna get better." So, for me, the experience of the power of photography was that woman coming out of the picture, and it's gonna be okay, kid, just hang on. And I think for the most part she was right. It gave me a life. So there was this experience. What I'd like to talk about tonight are the various epiphanies that have occurred over my life. It's kind of the jewelry, the pearl necklace of epiphanies, how shopping gave me a life. One of the discoveries at some point, I must have had about a dozen pictures, and they were all scattered around my apartment, and I'd been in analysis for long enough. And I'm looking at these pictures, and I went, oh my God, this is my unconscious manifest. These are all photographs of me. Ultimately, I found that chilling, terrifying, and in some respects, kind of empowering. So over the arc of this collection, you can see me as a little boy. We know who this is, Anderson Cooper, as an adult. Oh my God, really? The newsman? That's so exciting. Adam Foose, it's a great picture. He has a great big penis in the middle of it. Dorothea Lange, Barbara Morgan. Little boys, we love little boys. This is me as an artist, Andre Breton, self-portrait, little photo booth piece. Then we have Walker Evans. So it's me as an artist, me as a young man, me as part of a couple. I would be the, go back, well, there was, and then me as a bear, there you go. This has got to be one of the worst day jobs that anyone ever had. Just putting the mask on, going up the ladder, 3 shows a day. I find that to be a nice existential journey, that picture. Oh, here we are. Here's me as part of an ongoing, long-suffering couple, and I would be the one on the left. It's funny to see these videos because I've lost a lot of weight. It's really kind of nice. I get younger as the evening goes along. This is me as half man, half woman. That's one person. That's Zorita. We all have a little Zorita in us, don't we? Don't we? Come on. And then we have, this is by Chun Hawks, Dutch artist. This is me as a middle-aged older man. I love this picture. A man looking back on his life, sees his reflection, and people see this in the apartment and they go, is that you? And it's not, but I can see in the hang of the shoulders it makes me think of me. And then me as an old man, this is Robert Frank. This is also a picture of a cow. You are a tough crowd tonight. This is me as like a dead guy, Bon Chan-ko. And me as an artist, Larry Ginatino, the dear, dear Larry Ginatino. And me as a beautiful woman. I'm sorry. Me as a beautiful woman. There, see, it was funnier the second time. So they're all manifestations of my unconscious. At the same time, they're pictures of other people, so that you get something like this. I have a foster son named Buddy Davis, and this is like a page in the journal of my life, and picture by George Krauss, wonderful image of delirium. And this is, of course, who is this? Does anyone in the house know who this is? This is my sister, my legendary sister. She cops to this at various presentations. She doesn't have her hand up tonight. I did a presentation in Syracuse at the Society for Photographic Educators last year, and I showed this picture, and the person before me had been very, very dour, very, very solemn, and it was really pissing me off because I like a little hotter crowd than that. So I described this as a picture of the Hunts having fun. This is how we have fun. So I encourage everybody to put their hands up and circle around. Roger Main. And this is a picture of our parents. Of course, it's not our parents, but this is somehow a distillation of our parents in some perfect memory of them, this distillation of them where they're sweller than swell and completely uncomplicated with any real information about how they behaved in life. They were problematic. This is a picture of my father. Not really, but it's my father. I see my father. He looked like that. And as I said, he was always looking off into the distance. Hello, Dad. This is Maplethorpe of the artist Alice Neal, and it was made shortly before she died. And I will make the report that I bought this, I think unconsciously, rehearsing my mother's death. I think this picture is incredibly sad. It's as if you can sense the whole life form, the soul sort of slipping out of the bottom of the frame, and really, really, for me, an empathic portrait. So here are the Epiphanies. So I had been doing a charity job, and the New York Times called one day, and they wanted to do something about collecting. So there was an article in the New York Times by Chuck Hagan, and there was a photograph of me in a little t-shirt, looking gamin, my moment of being gamin. And the family story, someone called my mother and said, her name was Peaches. Peaches calls my mother, she says, Betty, you won't believe it, Bill's on the cover of the national section of the New York Times today. She was Southern. And my mother responded, oh, Peaches, don't be ridiculous. Anyway, I was on the front page of the national section of the New York Times with the photograph, and this outed me as a collector and gave me a kind of visibility that I hadn't had. Part of it was that I was being, I mixed my Epiphanies. Well, hold that thought. So I'm collecting, and I really don't know anything. I'm still flying around. I'm buying everything by instinct and wit and having fun with it and everything. And I walked into the Museum of Modern Art one day, and they just had reinstalled the Steichen galleries, and I still don't know anything, but then I really didn't know anything. And I walked in, and there was a print of this, Irving Penn, Woman on Bed, and a girl in bed. It's various titles, I guess. And there it was on the wall of the Museum of Modern Art, a photograph that I owned and that was in my house. And not only that, I knew enough to know that my print was better. And that was just astonishing to me that I could own something that was also in a museum. And Irving Penn, my line on Irving Penn is that he's the best. This is the best picture in the world, this one, Two Gudras. It's the covers of Worlds in a Small Room. It is the single best photographic image in the world. My house is on fire. I am going back in for this one. And I think he's the whole lesson. If you're a student of photography, lock yourself in a room with all the books for a week and you'll come out knowing a lot. This is actually a self-portrait of Penn that I found at auction once. And I don't think I knew what Penn looked like, but I saw this picture and I knew it immediately. It was him, and I thought, wow, what an amazing way of offering yourself up to the public, that this is what he chose to reveal about himself. And apparently he was in some kind of transition. His wife had died that year, and he really was apparently feeling formless. I think the picture's just brilliant. Of course, this is all in conjunction with this book that I have, this amazing book. The pens are not in the book because the Penn estate wouldn't let me do them. So don't be afraid to write them a letter saying, how short-sighted of you, really. Because Mr. Hunt just loves Mr. Penn. He can't say enough nice things about him and what a horrible estate it is and how they ruined his life. So 20 years ago, I don't know when anything was, 20 years ago, I become the chairman of Photographers and Friends United Against AIDS. It was the only time in my life that I think I turned to my partner and I said, these people seem to be searching me out to do this. And he says, well, you should do that. So I went like, what? Okay, so I'll do that. So I became the chairman of the AIDS organization. And it was great. Not because of all the really wonderful deeds we're doing and bringing, wonderfulness to the world. No, I like the action. I like getting on the phone and talking dirty. I could get people to talk dirty within 45 seconds. It was, I don't know where I learned this. It was amazing. And the line was, if you had $1 and had looked at a photograph, I called you up and asked for the $1. Why not? So in this period, it gave me a real direction. As an actor, I was not single-minded. As a fundraiser, I was completely single-minded and selfless. I just thought it was thrilling, fun. I met everybody. I went out of I busted my hump to meet people who had some connection to photography. The story in this that's worth reporting, I'd never been tested. So here I am, advocating for all this AIDS education and stuff. I'd never been tested. And I was at risk, in case anybody wonders. So, because of my IV drug use. So I meet this guy, Steve Hart, who won a big award for some AIDS photo essay, and I call him up and I go I got this idea about something. And I pitched this idea to him. And the idea was that all the photo essays you read about people who had HIV started after they'd been diagnosed. So this is how I think through things. Let's go out for a week and make pictures, and then I'll go get tested. It's completely distorted and perverse. So he goes to an audition with me. I go to a memorial service. We go to everything, and then he goes to the doctor's appointment with me. And it was this really incredibly sour major AIDS guy, and he walks into the examining room, and I'm sitting there with my ass hanging out of the hospital gown, and my photographer. He said he thought he'd seen everything until then, and the prostate part of the program came up, and the photographer was excused. So then a week goes by, and the phone rings one day, and hi, it's Dr. Green's nurse. Hi, how are you? She says, well, get out the champagne, you're negative. And I went, oh, fuck no, my photographer's not here. How can we document this? So anyway, that's how my mind works. Oh, and I did this funny project. The first thing I ever curated was this AIDS advertorial with, can you imagine William Christenberry doing an Absolute vodka ad? Well, look it up. He did. It was pretty cool. And then my life changed. So I did Photographers and Friends for like 3 years, and in a fit of pique, I left one night, thinking, oh, they'll ask me back. They didn't. And I'm floating, going, oh, I'll go back to show business, which apparently show business didn't realize I'd left. So then I get this presentation. I'm doing this especially tonight, because when I did this piece in October, I did not mention Rico and Maresca, Roger Rico and Frank Maresca, and they changed my life. So I'm making amends tonight. So I get this presentation from these guys, and they say that, oh, these 3 people had referred that they should contact me, and of course they spelled 2 of the 3 names wrong, which that was classic. I go down to this gallery, and they're closed for lunch. I'm like, closed? How can you? Anyway, I finally connect with these guys, and I think these guys are just amazing. That's not necessarily a completely good thing, but they are completely amazing. And they were showing this guy, Gerald Slota. And Gerald, artist I'd never heard of, gallery I'd never heard of. So we meet each other. We really, really liked each other, and still really do. And they were at my house one night, and they said, would I curate a show? Would I consider curating a show for them? And I said, I'm so easy. Yeah, those are my conditions. Yeah. And they said, well, you want to do it like now or 18 months from now? And I go like, let me think about that. Now, let's just do this. So I did this show called Delirium. And then Aperture, in its infinite wisdom, Melissa Harris, comes to me and says, like, let's do an issue of the magazine as Delirium. So I got to do the show twice. We did it as this big rollout in the gallery on Worcester Street. And then it was an issue of the magazine. And next thing you know, I clear a desk, and I'm making phone calls at Rico Maresca, and that's how I became a dealer. One of the things about collecting that I think many collectors know, outsiders may not know, collectors do behave like artists in that what they put together very often is a manifestation of their unconscious. I think it's really true in my case, that all the pictures together really create the portrait of the collector. And in my case, I really learned from collecting that it became empowering, that 40 years ago when I started, I didn't have a very strong sense of self-esteem. And I think that somehow all this collecting, it's like looking at facets on a jewel that you see, you walk around yourself so many times and you see yourself from all these different angles and you go, oh wow, wow, all that stuff. That somehow you muscle up over that in a good way, that you, maybe it offers you some release, some relief, you have some insight into why you do the things you do, and that maybe at the end of it, you come out okay. So the very last photograph that I say that is part of this collection is Bill Brandt, and it's a picture of Dubuffet's right eye, and wide open, so it's not what the rest of the collection is about, because this guy's eye is wide open. And when I saw this photograph, oh man, I went, hallelujah, this is great. What a fantastic, skyrockets are going off. And then I'm thinking, but you don't like pictures of people where you can see people's eyes. I've always found that somehow portraiture was not successful because somehow going in through the person's eyes was limiting. You just got this like strange representation of the person. You didn't get any of their soul or any of their heat or passion. So I'm looking at Dubuffet's Eye by Bill Brandt. Like, this is a great picture. I bought it. It took me a while. I didn't buy it from the Met because they don't sell pictures. But I looked around and found one, and it was a big deal finding that picture. And I realized that maybe I was done. Maybe that was the end of the collection. So I treat it as the period at the end of the sentence. I did buy some more because collectors really never really give up. But I think that whatever kind of neurosis accompanies collecting, and there's considerable, that maybe the collecting actually had resolved some of it. So now I'm all better. I didn't tell people who don't know anything about this. These are all magical, heart-stopping images of people in which you don't see their eyes. So if you were walking around going, what the hell is he talking about? That was it from the beginning. I looked for a picture, and then I found another, and I found others, and others, and others, and before you know it, you got them all over the place. Here's some people who changed my life. So I'd been collecting about 25 years, I don't know. And I went to, oh no, it's 2004. And I went to Arles in the south of France. And I went to this festival that was really, really cool and met the guy. I must have met the guy who runs it 5 times and completely looked through me every time. But I met his girlfriend, that was the secret. So then one day, he shows up in my gallery, and I said, oh, beautiful French people, nice to see you. What are you doing here? And they went, oh, we've come to see your collection. So he proposed to me that they show the collection in Arles, where it proceeded to be a great big hit. And we used little Gerald Slota, crazy Gerald Slota, as kind of the branding image. So while I'm doing that show in Arles, which is, you should curate a show of your own collection because it's the most fun you can have with your clothes on. So in the middle of all that, I get this email one day from Thomas Neurath, who's the head of Thames and Hudson Publishing, and he sends me this letter that you would never even have constructed in your wildest dreams, proposing that they do a book about me as a collector. Did I think that was something that I would respond to? And you go like, again, you go like, let me think about that. Of course. So we're off to the races, and we do this book. And this book goes through many different covers. So this is one of them. This is an anonymous picture. This is a picture by Susan Durgis. I like this. This was the cover for like 3 years. And then you find out if you ever publish a book that you go to a meeting one day and they go, oh, do you want to see the cover of the book? And you go like, what do you mean? Oh, we know you had something in mind, but this is better. So this is actually the cover of the English edition of the book with Lee Friedlander on the right. And book went through different titles too, Blinding Light. Hated Blinding Light. I said, what is like Paul on the road to Damascus gonna buy photographs? And it's Avedon on the left. This is the American cover with Carrie Levy on the right and Avedon on the left. Et en français, c'est l'œil invisible avec Erwin Blumenfeld on the right and Brandt on the left, Bill Brandt. So I gotta tell you, having three editions of your book, oh my God, that's just crazy. And then, of course, there is that day when the publisher hands you the book and says, like, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? And you completely disavow any knowledge of the book. It's like kryptonite. You can't stand opening it. So even to this day, I just can't get into it. In the collection, I gave you a little arc of life, birth to death. Here's some impossible pictures in this collection, which has taken many, many crazy roads. This is, well, these are my neighbors. I love this picture. This is the only picture that ever made money for me, too. It got published, and the Museum of Modern Art borrowed it, and then they called and said they wanted to put it in a catalog. And I said, sure. And they said, well, we're going to pay you. And I said, really? I said, they said, how much do you want? I said, well, how much are you offering? And they said, $1,000. 1,000, I couldn't believe it. I said, okay. So they published it in the book. I get the check for $1,000. Like 3 years later, I get a call from Time Life. They're doing another American survey, some horrible book. We'd like to publish that Klan picture. You have the rights to that Klan picture? I said, indeed I do. I do. They said, well, how much do you want? I said, that picture gets $1,000. So the picture made money. It wasn't an expensive picture, but it made money. This is an empowering picture. When I turned 50, I bought this picture, because this picture is all proton. This is an impossible picture. This is a rude picture. You shouldn't make a picture of some man with his head cut off, because it means you're a really dark soul if you do that. And it means you're a really, really dark soul if you buy the picture of the man with his head cut off. I had just turned 50. I walked into Pace Miguel. I saw this print. I went, oh my God, this is just, from the videos you can tell I say everything 3 times. But oh my God. And this picture doesn't really make it into the residence because someone in the residence doesn't really like it. So it's actually, it lives in the office. But I think it's, most great pictures I think behave like neutron. They're all magnet. They all attract you in, and not this one. This one says, definitely stay away. So this picture, this is September 11th, and I saw it on TV. I didn't see it in firsthand. I saw it sort of mediated. I saw Matt Lauer was showing it on the Today Show or something, and I was like, what's that picture? I gotta have that picture. And it has very little to do with not being able to see somebody's eyes, but it has this existential something at the heart of it. The French, when they published the book, didn't want to run this until I explained that it was really very meaningful to me. And they went, oh, if it's meaningful to you, then that's okay. There's another picture that Aperture didn't want that I'll show you in a minute. However, nobody has any trouble with the guy with no head. That's fine. Oh yeah, run that. We like that one. So, as a matter of fact, it said penises. We like penises. This is not a penis. This is Robert Mapplethorpe, but it's a kind of perfect picture. So one day I was looking at somebody's work, and I saw this picture. Tony Ward is his name, and I was looking at these pictures. He's kind of this Helmut Newton kind of photographer, and I'm looking. I get to this print, and it was a big print. Yes, it was a big print. And I'm looking at it, and I go like, what the hell is this? So now, I'll tell you, half the people in the room know what it is. And there are some people in the room who do not know what it is. Do not spoil it for them by whispering to them what it is. So, I'm so innocent, really, really. So, I'm decoding it, and I go, well, that's skin. I know that's skin. And then I think maybe it's like this. It's like his elbow. And then he tells me what it is, and I go like, oh my God. But it's like a face, so I gotta have that. And but the English didn't want to publish it, and I said, no, I gotta have it. And it was on a very attractive page with Kiki Smith and with Kepish, and aesthetically it was not scandalous, but the Americans didn't like it, and I liked Aperture, so we took it out. But Americans and penises, it's really weird. So I want to talk about, it's APAD tomorrow. I want to talk about Harry Lunn. Harry Lunn was the padrone of photography dealers. The orneriest, most horrible, homophobic, gay, homophobic, anti-Semitic, wonderful man who I ever had the great pleasure to spend time with. A horrible drinker. He liked me because I could gossip, I could play bridge, and I could drink him under the table. And he really changed the face of collecting photography. He made it happen. He founded APAD, he founded Perry Photo. He created the concept of editioning with Ansel Adams. And I don't think enough homage is sent his way, and so that's why I wanted to mention him. He died at like 55, I don't know. Harry Lunn, so I remember him weirdly and fondly. So, he gave me this picture. So I was at his apartment once, and he's got this book of spirit photographs from Victorian era. And He goes in the bathroom and he says, oh, take a look at the book. So I fan it like any good photo maven, and the print blows out onto the floor. And it doesn't look like any of the other prints in the album. And I go like, oh my God, here's a little crisis of conscience. He doesn't know this picture exists. He's in the bathroom. What do I do? Hey, I'm from the Midwest. He comes out of the bathroom and I go like, hey, this is really good. And he says, oh yeah, take it. And you go like, take it, I'll send you an invoice, take it, it's a gift, take it. Oh God, so many problems. And then he died and the family let me keep it. It's a great picture. It's just an anonymous, funny little picture. I have no idea why I put this in. I'm from Michigan, there you go. Women, here are women who've been important in my life. I'm gonna tell a couple stories, but I will say Janet Borton and Frisch Brandt dealers were really seminal in the whole development of me as a collector. They didn't waste my time, they sent me great stuff. The story about Janet, who was fabulous, beyond fabulousness. I'd met her at some early APAD at the Hotel Roosevelt where they had like card tables. It was just dismal. And Janet's like Bette Midler, she's like, hey. And so I go, I like you. So I make a date to go to her apartment. She lived like on 11th Street and Fifth Avenue. And I walk into her apartment and she's taken construction paper and she's cut it out into squares and put it over the faces of all the pictures in the apartment so that everything was right for me. And I thought that was just so funny. Melissa Harris is at Aperture. She was the one who published Delirium. Leslie's the publisher here, published my book. Thank you, Leslie. Connie Kane and Julia McKenzie were the midwives of my book in England. Alison Nordstrom, I love Alison Nordstrom, who's the senior curator at the George Eastman House, where I just got to have a big 550 image photograph show of the collection that just closed in February. Thank you, Alison. The deliriously wonderful Dale Caplet and Eugenia Perry, who is the wisest woman in all of photography. You should order anything Nia has ever written. She is smart, wise. So now we're gonna do a little plate balancing, and I want you to keep some things in mind. So remember her. When I did this show in Arles, I knew there wasn't gonna be time for a catalog. So I went to 3 women. I went to Janet, and I went to Alison, and I went to Nia, and I said, look, I have an idea for a catalog. I'm gonna interview you about me, and I'll just take the transcripts and I'll give that to everybody who comes to France. They'll really like it. Well, I knew I'd like it. And so I go to Nia first, and Nia's brilliant. She talks about the history of collecting photographs, and she's just spot on the whole thing. And she's like teasing out these stories in the course of that interview. So just remember her, because she's gonna come up again, and I will seamlessly wind what seem to be disparate stories together. How to collect, here's some advice. That's Joel Peter Whitkin says that, not about collecting, but it's true. They're out there, just find them. 3 pieces of advice. Look at the hair on the back of your hand, or if you're a lady, on the back of your neck. If you're standing in front of a photograph that seems to be appealing to you, and the hair is standing straight up, this is a positive sign. You like the picture. Secondly, if you are in a gallery, say you're in the Rico Maresca Gallery, and you're standing in front of something that seems so foreign, and yet you're looking at the price tag, and your heart is beating out of control. The sound of your heart beating is louder than the sound of the voice inside you saying, you can't possibly afford it. That's a good sign too. Buy it. And thirdly, look at your feet. Your feet will always walk you to the pictures that you like. I'm telling you. And as a dealer, this was inside information. It was like Las Vegas night. People would just give themselves away. I mean, this idea that you would actually walk up to a client and go like, oh, that's a really good one. You already know it's a good one. Why else would you have it on the walls? But the thing is they really like it. So you're dealing from strength in that situation. But it's a good test for yourself, because you'll be walking around and go like, why are my feet always standing in front of this picture? It's because you like it. Once upon a time I did this. Here's some advice for a young collector. Wear good shoes. Rich people always have good shoes, good glasses. Another giveaway. They'll think you're rich even if you're not. This is not really advice, because I love junk. So this is a photograph by a wonderful friend of mine from college, whose name is Maureen Anderman, who went on to be a Tony-nominated actress who traveled the world this last year in the Bridge Project, made her debut in the West End. So 100 years ago, she gives me this snapshot. 1976 is the actual date on it, I believe, Minnesota State Fair. And it's a picture of a woman with a pillowcase over her head. But I'm a collector, you know, I'm a really sophisticated guy. I can't be showing some stupid snapshot to people. But this was a great picture. This picture just was perfect for me. It says, "She lives, color TV radiation turns girl into monster." You know, serious stuff. So I've got it matted and it's in the drawer, and every so often I'd show it to people. I go like, "What do you think of this?" I know it's just a shitty old snapshot, but what do you think of this? I said, you know, this is stupid. So I framed it and put it out, and I told everybody it was by Gary Winogrand. Anyway, it was very exciting because I put this in the book, and for me it was a real lesson about credibility, legitimacy, that for me it was about the image. It wasn't about the provenance or the background on the picture. It was, did it really float your boat? And this was a picture that's very, very important to me in the collection. And Maureen's actually here tonight. This is a Ouija, Jerry Lewis. My mother always thought I looked like Jerry Lewis. Thank you, Mother. This is just, what are these girls doing? It says lubrication. Seriously. Okay. So, Casper the Friendly Ghost testifies. This is a famous picture. But I like that I've been able to take, I think one of the things that gives the collection some character, other than collections that you encounter more often, is that this collection has a really eccentric range, and I think that ultimately gives its substance. It really is about looking at pictures. There's another press print. What are they doing? I love this lady. This is great. This is by Peter Sakir. It says facial analysis. What does your face show? So this woman who is barely evidencing a pulse is going to pay somebody $15 to tell them what's going on. Nothing, honey. Here's your money back. And you'd think, you know, this is all figurative. All these pictures are like portraits of people. So I figured I'm never going to have a still life. Then one day, this picture shows up. It says contains human eyes. It's no eyes, hey? You know, it's a good picture. It comes with a little funny story too, is that it belonged to a guy named Marvin Heiferman, who's someone in our business. And I said to him, I said, like, well, give me the picture. He said, what do you mean, give me the picture? I said, give me the picture. This picture's meaningful to me. It's just some ordinary picture for you. Give it to me. No. So I made a copy print. I had copy prints made. And so then I get this phone call like 5 years later. It's Marvin. Hey, how are you? I go, I'm perfectly fine, Marvin. It's nice to talk to you after 5 years. You know that picture? Yeah. He said, well, you know, we had it in the bathroom, and the humidity and yada yada, and my boyfriend backed into it, yada yada yada, fell on the floor, a million pieces, yada yada yada. And you go like, and the point of your phone call, Marvin, would be, so he wanted to know if I had a copy print of my copy print. So I was happy to oblige, but he should have given me the picture in the first place, I think. It's a great picture. Never buy old stuff. There's a lot of advice here I'm going to give you. So this is a picture. I bought this in Paris for a fortune. My friend Paul Kapakin was with me, and we were air kissing everybody inside, and this thing is like, 50 meters away, and I see this thing like blinking at me, and I go like, I'll be right back. I go over. This is by the Alinari family, Italians, 19th century, and some guy with a tarp over his head on a tightrope, this great existential crisis, and I misunderstood the price by a decimal. Paul says, you're such an asshole. I knew you were going to buy it. And I did. It's a great picture. For me, it's a great picture. So it's the Shroud of Turin, the first photograph, maybe? Who knows? Never turned 40. I just think that's hysterical. never turned 50. Just don't bother. It's too much work. So when I turned 50, it gave me a license to kill, and I bought some stuff. I bought that Witkin, and I woke up one morning and I went, these are a series of pictures by Todd Watts called The Very Last Old Man. Just gorgeous for me, and they're big as like Stonehenge. And I didn't want to wake up in 20 years and wonder where those pictures were. So I called him up and I said, I want to buy those pictures. Let's make a deal. So he did, and I got them all. So that's good. So what's an eye? Oh, the interactive part of the program. An eye. I got an eye. I once upon a time I was at a gallery looking at Elaine Rychik, who's a great female artist, Elaine, with a conceptual bent, who does things that are kind of crafty, with having to do with women's crafts. So she does this, the piece on the left, it's a 19th century photograph on the right that she's blown up, missionary from Tierra del Fuego, and then on the left, she has knit this piece on a kind of armature, and it's life size. So I'd been following this piece for a long time, and it was really haunting me. And I'm in this gallery, Michael Cohen's gallery, and he says, well, you have such a good eye. I went, look, don't blow up my skirt. I tell him I've got a good eye. Let me just look at the pictures, because it wasn't gonna, it was irritated me that someone was flattering me like that. But he said, no, what are you talking about? He said, you have a really good eye. Everybody knows you have a really good eye. Don't you know you have a really good eye? It had never occurred to me that I had a really good eye. So I went home and I thought about it. And I went, well, what happens if I have a really good eye? And I thought, well, okay, let's pretend you have a really good eye. And I think having a really good eye it's like math aptitude. It's the ability just to add faster than other people. And usually what I have is somebody say to me, like, ask me how much 2 and 2 is. And so ask me, Lauren, how much 2 and 2 is. Wait, when I give you the signal. 4. You just get there before other people. That's all. That's what an eye is. So I decided I had an eye. So I got an eye, and then I wrote a book, and anyway. Oh, hey, more movies. The idea that as a collector you've got an eye, you don't get that right away. You just see things more quickly than you used to. When you have an eye, you walk into a situation and you go, that one. The next person goes like, yeah, that is good. That's a good picture. How come you knew that? It's experience and instinct and the ability to actually hear yourself. What's my advice? Commit. Tell me, coming up to me and going like, oh man, you should have seen this. We just loved it. Commit. Buy it. Steal it. Get it. That's having it at home. That's what's fun. Talking about the one that got away is less fun. Pleasure, commitment. Commitment, pleasure. That's my lesson for today. Oh, okay, so I want to tell 2 stories that are a little long, and they involve a little concentration on your part. So the first part of this is about having your portrait made. And so I hate having my picture made, but it's all about control. So sometimes you get some good ones. So this is Neil Winokur, and this is an odd picture by Bruce Cratsley of the wrong side of my face. This is by Timothy Greenfield Sanders. Once upon a time, American Photo was running an article about photographers and friends united against AIDS, and they said, "Oh, we want to put you in the article. Just send us a snapshot." You go like, "Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to send you a snapshot for your damn magazine." So I called up Timothy Greenfield Sanders, big deal photographer, and I said, like, "Hey, will you shoot a portrait of me?" He says, "Yeah, I've got something booked," and I said, "Look, I'll bring Marvin Heiferman along. He's in the story too, and that'll give it some credibility." So he makes this picture and he shoots like 8 frames, and I look gorgeous in it. We would describe this as incredibly fuckable. That would be my description of this picture. So I used this as my show business headshot for years. And this is before Photoshop. And you can see Marvin's shoulder on the bottom left-hand side of the picture. It's like always has a like extra appendage. But anyway, look at that hair. My God, that hair. I should have saved it. This is Martin Scholler. I think this picture is funny. I look like I'm going to eat your children. And I might. Ethan Hill, he did these last year. I think these are so. It's hard to have your picture taken. So think about the notion of the self-portrait. So here's what a dealer does.
Who do we buy your art through? Which gallery? Is it?
There he is. Bill. Bill. That's my gallerist. He brought me to New York. Hestertrand. Wilhelm, yeah.
Christopher.
And it's lovely to work with, for me.
Oh, good.
You know, when you sign a book, it can't be returned. So
No.
you should always sign as many books as you can.
Yeah.
Don't you know? Do you know that?
No.
Yeah.
Oh.
So you should sign all the books here.
Oh, I'm not like that. I don't give a shit about that.
And that's what a dealer does. Okay, so you're thinking about Eugenia Perry, and you're thinking about Arl. And so I went to Vietnam in the 60s. And yes, government contract. I was under a government contract. And yes, I was a government contract with our government, the American government. So I go to Saigon, and the lead up to this is I'd had a friend in college whose name was Pike John, who I didn't really like. We'd kind of known each other, and because our parents knew each other, and had always kind of hissed at each other when we would walk by each other. And so I'm drafted, and I'm at the draft board in Detroit, and there's Pike. I go like, what the hell are you doing here? Like some cosmic joke. So we're both drafted, looking like wounded cattle. And we get onto the bus to Fort Knox for 8 of the most hellacious weeks of my life. Just degrading beyond anything you can imagine. And at the end of it, the thing that looms over your head is this notion that at the end of it, you're going to get your MOS, your military occupational specialty. And the thing you didn't want more than anything was 11 Bravo, because that was infantry. I had a master's degree. So the big day comes, and I get 11 Bravo. And it's like getting the 4th feather, the black dot. The hangman has let the trap door loose, and you are just hanging. About the most horrible day of my life. And Pike was there, and he just hung out with me, and he sort of counseled me, consoled me, and I got through that, and then I went to Vietnam and had the most fabulous time of anybody there. Good Morning Vietnam. I was a disc jockey. I was a classical disc jockey. What the hell? So, and I'm having a fabulous time. I'm the one that, you know, at the airport leaving Saigon, I'm the one going like, oh, now what am I gonna do? Everybody else go, we're leaving on a jet plane, baby. And I'm like going, oh, so a great time. Pike is in Vietnam, smoked dope, got laid, it was great, traditional GI tour. And he comes home after me and gets married to this blonde bitch from Birmingham, Michigan, who didn't think I was the funniest thing she'd ever met. And he's got kids, and it's over. You know, we talk to each other once a year or something, and he really was my soulmate. And then I was about 45, and the phone rang one day. It was an old girlfriend of mine, Judy Conrad, and she says, Pike's dead. And that was about the most dreadful thing I'd ever heard. And it wasn't dreadful just because he was dead, but it was because this whole history that he knew about me, he just knew all this stuff about me. And it was erased. And that was just tragic for me. So I tell this story to Eugenia, because we're telling her the story of my life, and I say, like, you know, he died and was all gone. And she looks at me and she says, well, you know, Bill, he was your photograph. And I thought, man, that's just about the smartest thing I ever heard about photography. So that's neat. So you managed to keep those things together, Arl and Vietnam. And, So this is the story of Marlon Brando. This is even more complicated to keep this stuff together. So Marlon Brando. So there are lots of movies about photographers. You get Blow Up, Bang Bang Club. Very hard to find a movie about a photography collector. However, there is one, Reflections in a Golden Eye, which is this Carson McCullers novel, and in it, Marlon Brando plays this very repressed army captain who keeps having this, Robert Forster keeps riding by naked on a horse, and it keeps bothering Marlon. But you'll see the nature of his collecting. It's not a very good movie, but anyway, so Marlon's a little hung up, you might say. So think of the self-portraits. One day, APAD is opening, and this guy comes into the stand, and I had a gallery, and this guy comes up to me and he says, "Did you get the picture I dropped off?" "What are you talking about?" He says, "I made a portrait of you and I dropped it off at the gallery one day." I said, "I don't know what you're talking about. I never saw it." Oh, wait a second. In this picture, do I have a red sweater on and I'm standing in front of the Met and I'm in this alley of trees and there's a very slender woman standing there? Yeah, that's it. I said, "Let me tell you something. Men in the visual arts have a kind of narcissism, shall we say, something. You know, they like to be thought of as good looking. And in that picture, the reason why I sort of blanked on it was because my staff hid it from me. But I found it one day, and I want you to know that it was really upsetting, because I look a little fat in the picture. I look like a robin who's like carbo loading for about 18 winters, and sort of billowing out of this outfit." And he goes, "Oh, then I suppose you haven't seen this." And he hands me this grocery store magazine. This photograph is on the cover of it, and the grocery store magazine is called like Over 60. Not only that, it's on the table of contents page. It's there twice. So I'm hysterical, so everybody in the stand is like laughing like crazy. And dear Janet Russick, who's a longtime dealer from Santa Fe, comes into the stand and she says like, "Well, what are you guys all laughing about?" I said, "Well, look at this photograph." And Janet goes like, "Oh my God, whoever made this photograph is the worst photographer ever." And I go like, "Oh, then you probably haven't met." So Janet was mortified, and my assistant loved that story because we call that the day I ate Marlon Brando. So I think we're kind of at the end, are we? Some rude remarks. I cut the rude remarks because they were so rude that people said, "You don't have to do that this time because, you know, you were so gracious that you should leave them with nice things." But one has to do with lightning, and one has to do with flame, and then there's a really, really rude one. But this is a nice thing here. The collecting is like running around in a thunderstorm, praying that you will be hit by lightning. Michael Floman, moment of total transcendence. Shazam. Thank you very much.